Hey guys, this is Leah Alazam, and you're listening to Void Signal with Brian McLeland.
Yeah, I think Burning Souls is
Burning Souls. Okay, so that's the one. That's one I've released on Bandcamp in February.
gotcha.
So that was quite the work because I needed my time to do it as we all did in Corona time. So it was not really a easy time for all of us. So I gathered ideas during more than 1 year because yes, for nearly 2 years we didn't have lots to do with regarding our work outside. So we have spent lots of times inside our houses.
Right.
So I wanted to have something that was really yes, okay, of course, like most of the time for me, quite dark. So I gathered lots of ideas during the months with older samples, newer samples. And then I thought about why not doing something about souls, about burning souls, about sacrifices, about hell, about passion, deep griefs, and so on.
Mm.
So always quite dark for me. But okay, Ah Cama-Sotz is always dark, even with or without beats, as you know. So I had this idea about burning souls. So I managed to gather 6 tracks, to make 6 tracks, and then each time there was I gave the name in a different language regarding the type, regarding the name soul.
Okay. All right. That's
So
interesting.
yes, so as you can see, as you can like my last work, Dusha, Hing, Ru, Zil, Anima, and Tamashi. It's all different languages. That means in their language, in their proper language, it means soul.
I didn't realize that. That's very interesting, actually. I mean, I should have kind of guessed. I mean, you don't sort of. I mean, as familiar as I am with your history and your catalog and everything, I mean, there's absolutely nothing about any of your work that has ever come across as like half-assed or, not thought out to sort of every measure. And that's one of the things that I've sort of admired about your work throughout the years. There's a tremendous sort of consistency to everything that you sort of do. And I mean, I know it's sort of the Ah Cama-Sotz sound, but it's just interesting to sort of see how it's shaped and progressed over, such an extensive and prolific catalog. When you sit down to sort of start working on new music or putting something together, do you feel like a tremendous amount of pressure of like, do I need to iterate, or are you just at the point that you're just making this for yourself and everybody else can enjoy it or not?
Well, as I'm this year, I'm busy since 29 years, officially 29 years with Ah Cama-Sotz. Not to talk with the years before, but okay, officially it's 29 years.
Sure.
So there's always been, let's say, fil rouge, as we say in French, a red line. I don't know if you mentioned this in English language, a red line. There's always some similarities during the years that you always can find in Cama-Sotz. Always these tribal elements, these ambient elements, these tribal ritual beats, or darkness, and so it has all to be. It's all. Sorry, I cannot say it. I have to think about it. It has something it has something to be with with my character,
Sure.
and my feelings towards the music, towards the experimental and dark music. So, but as you can hear from since the beginning, 20 years, from years ago up to now, I think that most of the people, or let's say most of my fans, they can feel the same vibe that I had all through the years. I think so.
I would agree. I think it's I mean, it's one of those things where I can sort of dive into an Ah Cama-Sotz record of almost every sort of mood or temperament almost, and it transitions so very, very well. Are there other artists that are sort of like your contemporaries that you sort of look at and sort of inspire you or make you want to sort of like, oh, I need to step up my game, or oh, this record was so inspired or so influential or groundbreaking?
Yes, I had lots of influences, like in the 80s or in the 90s. Lots of bands like Joy Division, SPK. So it speaks for it that it's quite experimental stuff, because I'm coming from a very different and eclectic scene. Mm-hmm. It can be like before, yes, like in the 70s and 80s, I used to play lots in clubs, clubs like different sort of kinds of music, new wave, dance music, reggae, gothic, this kind of stuff. So I was telling myself, well, why not also composing, of making some music, different kind of music, like the experimental and darker stuff, like I noticed from SPK in Joy Division, Bauhaus, and so much more. I don't know. So I've got so much albums from so many artists, and then why not experimenting with these different kinds of bands and friends who are also in this kind of ritual tribal stuff. So I found it quite interesting to start with it, but it took several years before I really found my own way,
Drug addiction, alcoholism, sadism, bestiality, mutilation, murder, vampirism, necrophilia, cannibalism, not to mention the gamut of sexual goodies. Shall I go on?
out of hell, hateful enemy of God and all Christian people, the devil. We were all aware of the rumor that spirit come among us out of hell, hateful enemy of God and all Christian people, the devil. Hateful enemy of God and all Christian people, the devil.
I hope you do not mean that we go to Satan here.
confession in my hand, or I cannot keep you from the rope. You will give me your honest confession in my hand, or I cannot keep you from the rope.
The other question that I kind of want to ask is that, I mean, you've been doing this for 29 years.
Yes,
It's a prolific, catalog of things that you've worked on or collaborated on.
Yes.
Is there an end in sight, or are you doing this until they cart you away?
No, as most of my side projects, it's all about ideas with friends, even in my own scene or maybe some while outside the scene. Mm-hmm. Now I'm also busy with some people outside the scene, but okay, it's all about the underground music and underground scene and stuff. Mm. But most of my friends with whom I made these side projects, they knew me from older times, and then it's all about yes, why not starting a new side project about, let's say, beats or ambient stuff, or why not darkness and dark ambient stuff, and why not starting with tribal beats? Why not? So the side projects were up to now always a bit limited, a starting point, and then we had a stop point, and then in between, maybe after a few years, after a few years, we started back with the same project, but it's not always there was up to now always an ending point, because I always found that it's quite important to have 1 or 2 or 3 projects, and then then everyone then the ideas that suddenly they stopped, and then we thought, okay, we stop now, maybe in a few years we can go on with, but for everyone, most of the artists, the main project is really the most important project that every one of us have. Huh?
Right. Gotcha. Do you? I mean, it's what sort of what are you hoping to leave behind as a legacy? I guess, like, if someone were to stumble upon your discography tomorrow, what would you hope that they learned either about themselves or about you? Does that make?
Yes, I think that most of the artists they like to have a legacy. Let's say if you don't really want this legacy, we don't want to make it happen outside, as I say, the 4 walls in the room. That, but as you see, if someone is making his music more than 20 or 30 years, I think that's quite normal to have some kind of legacy. And even if you don't want it, people now in these times of internet, it's not so difficult to get known with some underground project, because there are so much people who are into music today. Myself, I'm also still buying records. I'm going to the record shop, but I think lots of people they are really getting much more music from the internet than, let's say, 20 years ago. That's also a good thing for the underground music, as I think so.
Yeah, I absolutely would agree. It's sort of interesting to see it kind of play out, like, in its infancy of all the disparate scenes that are sort of like not very well connected, and excuse me, sort of reaching out to one another and that sort of a thing. I think it's very interesting, and like, if not much good came out of COVID and the coronavirus and the lockdown and the pandemic, but if nothing else, the good thing is that it did connect a lot of underground communities that share a lot of goals. So you mentioned that you still go to the record shop. What was the most recent thing that, like, stood out to you that you were just, like, super excited to hear and listen to?
Well, there's so much things I discover each day. Even as I tell you, if I'm going to the record shop, or if I'm looking for some stuff, some underground or more commercial stuff via the internet or via SoundCloud and Bandcamp, you can find so many interesting bands, even so underground or less underground, in each different genres, each different style. And I think the music speaks for itself. there are not so many. I think like in the style of like let's talk about the techno dance music. There are, even in this kind of style, there are so many different experimental ways that people can discover. So it's not. So now I'm talking about the underground stuff, and not about really big festival stuff.
Sure.
Because yes, it's of course it's a different aspect, but I'm also keen about discovering some really darker, doomy stuff everywhere. So and I can find it. Sure, it sure is.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, and it's nice to have like be able to sort of share things easily with people. It's been really interesting watching sort of the way, because I mean, like do you, with the current state of like the music scene and the streaming services and everything, as somebody who has watched the transition from the brick and mortar CD store, record store, into streaming, how do you feel about streaming and sort of the controversy surrounding payout?
Yes,
like Spotify.
Yeah, I can follow you. Well, at the start, it was all we released lots of records, CDs, tapes, and then suddenly came the transition via Napster, that they all that we felt that we sold less and at a lesser point music on physical music, like records and CDs. So
sure.
It started all with Napster, and maybe some more that I'm not know about it. But it was at the beginning. It was really a shock that from in 1 or 2 years that we sold lesser than before. So it was always everywhere was some kind of discussion that why do you steal our music? You really have to pay for music, but otherwise we cannot live from our music in a certain point. So it was really during your years, it was really a discussion. It was not just the artist, but also the labels. They went broke, or they could not finalize our CDs, so it was really a terrible act towards the publishing and the releasing artists. So it went for a long time. So what to say more? What to say more about it? It went not well with this discussion at the starting. But okay, we all went along with this kind of discussions, and now okay, the last 10 years, it suddenly became much more interesting, even for the people who let's say between breaks steal our music. But more and more people like from the underground, and they started to buying more music, like from for instance Bandcamp,
right,
and other possibilities from via I don't know, find the word, sorry about it, but it went
like
much more interesting.
Web stores and that kind of a thing.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, web stores, yes. Gotcha. That's the word, yes.
Okay. That makes sense, and it's interesting to sort of hear your perspective as somebody, because I mean, usually whenever Napster and that sort of a thing comes up, I mean, most people think of like, major recording artists being, Metallica and these kinds of huge, like multi.
Yes.
But it's interesting, and it's sad that it so negatively impacted the underground music scene so much.
Yes.
And it's I mean, it kind of breaks my heart, but I mean, truth be told, to be honest, I'm one of those people because I was poor. And so but I mean, like, you know, once I got older and had a job, like, you know, I would purchase Ah Cama-Sotz CDs and so on and so forth. But it did start out from a place of, you know, I don't have access to this. And, so I am glad that streaming and sort of the proliferation of it has been as good as it has been, because, you know, even if it's, you know, not as much money as perhaps is merited, I'm still glad that, like, you know, streams are being, you know, paid out at some point. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, as somebody who did illegally steal an Ah Cama-Sotz CD once, I'm very sorry. I have purchased many CDs since then, and it was my first exposure, and I have been a huge fan ever since. So I
Okay.
So one thing that I didn't really get a chance to kind of cover or talk about when we spoke last was just 1993 was when you first got started doing this, and I was just kind of reading the backstory here to refresh myself with it.
Yes.
And you sort of, I mean, you really have been kind of lurking in the underground for quite a long time. I'm almost sort of aghast when I run into so many people who have never heard of Ah Cama-Sotz. Is that something that is that a legacy that you're sort of, or a reputation that you're maybe a little bit, like, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about knowing that you're sort of, that you have this sort of mythos around you, I guess, or
yes, it's really strange because there, as I can advise, well, most of the time when I'm getting mails or of mails via Bandcamp or mails via straight towards my mailbox, so I still have lots of contacts since many years with so many people, So from so many countries, from let's say New Zealand to the States, Japan, and so on. So yes, of course, I'm still underground like most of my friends, musicians, who already have been releasing lots of stuff on Hans and Sen and so many other labels. So I don't think we are really so, as I told you last time, we are so big as we are still deep down underground. So what to say else, huh?
Sure. What are you going to create next? Like, is there anything that throughout your career you've been wanting to make that you just have not, put the boots to the ground to do?
Since, as I told you, I've been officially working since 29 years. And before that, experimenting with sounds since the end of the 80s. And before that, club and DJing in different, so many occasions since the end of the 70s. So maybe I'm quite diverse. It's also I'm quite diverse with my own kind of music. Since officially I'm doing my stuff, tribal ambient stuff since 1993, and we can like so many of my fellow enthusiastic collaborators and musicians. Maybe they are also just doing the same on the same occasions, the same festivals, like in Germany,
sure,
France, and so many other countries. Well, I've been 2 times to the US. Let's say maybe 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So it has always been quite small and dark concerts, in the States, because it's not so easy to have bigger to play on bigger festivals
sure,
everywhere. We also have in Belgium lots of very bigger festivals, but it's all about bigger pop festivals and bigger techno festivals. So I think like in our scene, it's not so easy to play on a bigger festival like in our like in the style of music that we are doing since so many years. So I think so. It's really maybe not so easy.
Right, sure, that makes sense. I mean, you've put a tremendous amount of work into Ah Cama-Sotz. I mean, in preparation for this interview, I tried to sit down and listen to the whole discography and the whole catalog of everything that I have.
Yes.
I mean, it really delves into some dark places. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know about your own music, of course, but
yes.
it was such an interesting journey to see how broad and how diverse Ah Cama-Sotz has been. I did notice that there was a kind of, there's been a lot of like, there was a significant gap in releases between for your side project Occult. Was there a particular reason that it just like, out of the blue 11 years later or whatever it was from the last time you released something as Occult, that in 2021 you were just like, okay, we're gonna put out another Occult release? Like what about the timing sort of made that happen?
No, the timing was just like I ended this side project many years ago for no reason, just because I was doing so many side projects, and as I told you, my main project is the most important. But now, as we had the opportunity of Bandcamp, so I thought about it to put some bigger, let's say, on Bandcamp, some kind of compilation CD album, and with the most of the tracks that most of the people don't have or don't know. So it was really a good opportunity to bring out this Occult release, the bigger compilation with older tracks, and also some of the live tracks I put out. So that was the main reason. As I told you last time, Bandcamp gives a bigger opportunity to release with different programs.
Right.
So there are lots of many side projects I haven't released on Bandcamp, but okay, it's still a question of time. But as said, the main reason is that I'm still busy with my main project. and in between times, maybe I can release again some newer compilations or older compilations from so many projects I've been involved with.
Right. I mean, and I'm sure there's a tremendous amount of projects that you've, had your fingers in over the years. Is there a possibility of any upcoming shows? I mean, I want to say that the last show I saw listed was on maybe last year, 2021. Is that right?
The last show I did was some around 2021. I think so. In 2020, and that was in Moscow.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, and is there a possibility of anything coming up on the horizon, or too early to say?
Yes, at this moment, yes, because we are doing lots of thinking since Corona, since COVID-19.
Right.
So we still have to organize. I still have to organize myself to do much more things outside the country, and let's say it like that. Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that'll go fine. I mean, you're standing on the top of a 29-year career doing this. I mean, I'm not great at organizing myself or or sort of anything I intend to do, but I have no doubt that you'll be able to. Are you going to try and visit the States again at some point? Like maybe not in a professional capacity as bringing Ah Cama-Sotz to the States, but are you going to try and visit the States again at any point just for personal reasons? I mean, you mentioned it had been a while, so I was just curious.
Yes, of course. No, I've been visiting the States at several occasions a long time ago. Then afterwards, I did several concerts with certain bands also into the States and Canada type of organization. But even if I want to have some vacation, yes, there are so much opportunities to go elsewhere, everywhere if I want to. But I said with the last 2 years, it has been quite difficult to travel abroad.
Sure.
So that's lesser point, a big minus for all of us. But I think in the near time I can travel a bit more when I know that the better, let's say, the better side of COVID and stuff will go away. Yeah?
Right. I don't mean to delve too deep or anything, but I was curious. The amount of information about you and about Ah Cama-Sotz online is limited. I mean, like the official website is sort of like the best kind of source for that. But just who is Herman Klapholz? Like when you are not making Ah Cama-Sotz, and I apologize if I'm butchering the pronunciation of your name. It is just the way I've been saying it for like 20 years, and I had no idea if it was wrong or not. So feel free to correct me. But just aside from this wonderful symbolism that you've created, just what do you do when you are not doing this?
When I'm not doing this, so I'm living my life like always, and trying to get a job to work. So if I'm not doing music, I'm also working during the daytime and trying to survive. Let's say like this, because it's not easy to survive like a musician, an underground musician. I think the bigger musicians, like in our scene, they also have to survive. But yes, I also have a studio. I'm also doing mastering. I'm also trying to make productions. So I know lots of people, many people who are asking me, do you master? Do you make some production? Can you do some remixes? So I'm let's say that for 80% I'm busy with music. It's that's quite important for me.
It is said that the future is always born in pain. The history of war is the history of pain. If we are wise, what is born of that pain matures into the promise of a better world, because we learn that we can no longer afford the mistakes of the past.
I mean, that's obviously your sole focus and everything. Just, I don't know. I'm curious to know more about you beyond just sort of what's readily available. I mean, like, what's like the last like really good book that you read? Like, my expectations are high. I will I will warn you. Like, when I'm like, oh, what's the last book you read? Like, I'm waiting for you to tell me that like you unearthed some tome and it's, you've got one of like 3 copies and it's, about something significant, something deep. So, but it's perfectly fine if the last thing you read is Harry Potter. I won't judge. Be a little disappointed, but I won't judge.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe you will.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, maybe you will be disappointed, but I told you, I'm thinking about traveling, and I'm really interested in so many countries. So I'm reading about so many countries and the locals in lots of countries. So now the last books I've read is about Italy.
Oh, okay.
So the many different books I've read about some towns in Italy, like Rome, like Florence. So I'm quite interested about their history. So it's not really about the cheap traveling books that you can find everywhere, but really about the profound history of towns like Rome, Florence, and so many other. So I think each time I'm reading such a book, I'm going really deep down to know whenever I'm going to these towns like Venice. You also have Venice. As said, just put a vinyl on Ansen, and it's also about strolling in the streets of Venice, and that's why I put out a vinyl with songs about history, cultural stuff, and so on. So maybe it's coming. The tunes are coming from reading books and going to travel before the COVID stuff. So I really hope that I can soon come to different countries, different towns to know more about and to seek for some more adventures and to put out some more music.
And I mean, you mentioned not the travel guides, right? And I think that's so important and so poignant because I've really taken an interest in sort of local history, and I think it's something that more people should do. I mean, if you're going to be living in a place for an extended period of time, maybe you should sort of read about the history of what's there. And I mean, like, just talking about Italy as a peninsula, you know what I mean? And as far as history goes, or like, the soil beneath your feet sort of being rich in history. I mean, Rome is the place to feel that. But I mean, that's a really interesting approach. Do you sort of like, do you use the history books as to sort of inform your journey as you sort of travel? Are you sort of like, oh, I'm going to go see this place that may or may not be like a tourist destination, like maybe it's off the beaten path?
Yes, most of the time, like last year's, I'm really into if I'm traveling, I prefer to read the more historical side of the country or the towns, because it's quite I think it's quite important, even as an artist, to know some kind of history about the country and the sites and the locals.
Sure.
As myself, I'm from Antwerp. It's not so far away from Brussels, but we also have quite a rich history about this town. So it started already in the ninth century. So like so many countries and local history and villages. There's so many stuff going around, and it's quite interesting as a musician to use this kind of topics.
Sure. I mean, you've obviously traveled pretty extensively throughout your career. Is there any place in particular that just kind of stands out as like, oh, when I traveled to this particular place? I mean, for me, years ago, my wife and I went to, we traveled up the California coast and went into traveled down, I guess I should say. We went to the coast of the United States, Pacific Northwest, and saw the redwood trees, which is, if you get the opportunity, it was absolutely amazing. I mean, the trees are enormous, and it was such a wonderful experience. And that sort of, that's the place for me when I think of what's something special that I've experienced. That's sort of what I think of. But I mean, given your sort of career and how much you've traveled and the things you've experienced, is there a place like that just sort of holds a place in your memory that is profound or has informed so much of what you've done?
Well, as said, I've been to so many countries, so many local regions. Mm-hmm. So after a while, it's really so much. There are so much to understand and to see. Sure. So it's rather difficult to say there's typical one specific reason that I wanted to go back. As there's so many reasons why I should go back to all these different places. There's so many really. After a while, yes, you can tell yourself, oh, I want to go back to these and these particular places. As told you, I've been for some 20 years ago to Seattle, so it was really awkward, Seattle, and I've been also San Francisco. I've been to Phoenix. Phoenix quite difficult, very very different, not difficult but different towards let's say the other side of let's say of New York. It's so many. It's the US. It's so big, so great. So it's really we are so small in comparison with the US, with all the different dynamics you can find in the US, the East Coast, the West Coast. If you are going north or south, I've got a friend who's living in Memphis. It's still again quite different opposed to let's say San Francisco or New York. So it's so interesting. There's so many ways to go in like in the States. So really, I want to come back.
relation to your experiences just as a touring musician, is there, I don't know, is there anything that you have wanted to do that you have not had the opportunity? Is there something that you're like kind of still hoping to accomplish?
Like most of the underground musicians, they hope to accomplish much more in doing much better music, good music, much more music.
Is it always better?
Yes.
I feel like there are artists who maybe their concept of better got lost along the way somewhere a little bit, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a question of I'm doing my stuff since the 29 years, right. So I always try to seek and to look for newer parts,
Sure.
For different ways. I think it's quite important to acknowledge this, and of course I'm quite different, maybe because yes, I'm as you told me, I'm quite underground, yeah. And there are enough musicians, even Belgian musicians, who are much lesser underground, but still in the underground. But they are doing their own stuff and since 30 or 35 years, they are always following the same path since many years. And maybe it's quite a bit different for me, as I'm always looking for new ways, and that's not maybe it's not always that easy for the fans that I have. And maybe there are some older fans. They told me yes, but maybe I prefer the older Ah Cama-Sotz from 1995, and I don't like the newer parts now in 2022. Maybe it's a different opinion, but sure. I think as a musician, you always try to try be a bit to follow new parts, new ways, as you want to experiment. You don't want to be like 30 years ago. I think, but that's okay. That's my personal opinion. Huh?
I don't know, as far as musicians and sort of transitioning and evolving throughout their time and their career, I feel like it's so important, but it also strikes me as really disrespectful to tell a musician or an artist, hey, new thing that you're making, new thing that you have created, that you've put your heart and soul into, not as good as this thing you made when you were an amateur, right? It's a comparison of like...
Yeah, I know this feeling.
Right, it's like a comparison of like your skill, like for someone to be like, oh hey, this mastercrafted thing is not as good as some amateur shit you made when you were young. Like, I don't want to be told that. Like, so it strikes me as rude, I guess.
Yes, of course, I know this feeling, but okay, I think after so many years, after a long time, you cannot be mad anymore because of the people tells you, yes, I prefer the older side of your music than the newer side. Still, there are lots of people, and I think it's quite important that they give, even today, the new generation, they give you a good feeling, because they prefer the newer side of the musician in comparison of the older side. And the new generation, it's really for them, let's say 30 years. It's so a long time ago. So they I think if they really want to travel and to seek into your old discography, and they are interested, they will do it. But there are lots of people and younger generation, they just want to have a good feeling, to get a good feeling and a good a good, and they want a good time.
Right.
So and they are really they acknowledge the good part of today of your music, and they don't want to change this, and they are happy. So what to say about it? I'm not a professor, and I don't I don't give them school, lessons at school. So what I cannot tell you more.
Right, sure. And I mean, it's I don't know. I think you're a little kind about it, but I mean, it strikes me as just shitty. I mean, like I understand,
Yes.
like I don't know, but I would never tell an artist that. Like, even if that were like the thing I really felt like, I think it's. I don't know. I think when it comes to feedback, right? Like, and I think that's kind of a little bit of kind of what you're saying, if I'm understanding right. And I could be not. And by all means, tell me. But it almost sort of sounds like you're in your effort to be charitable. There's some knowledge or something to be gained for you as an artist, even just based upon that negative interaction almost. Is that right? Like you're sort of gaining from their, like, sure, they walk up and they're like, yeah, your new record's not as good as 1992, know, young Herman's contributions were so much more significant, or whatever rude sort of abrupt thing. And what you should take away from it is not a reflection upon you or your skill or your craft, but more a like, oh, well, what is it about that early release, young Herman? What is it about, that young production that would draw someone in so much compared to what I'm making now? Is that kind of like you're more looking more inward to sort of understand, I guess?
Me personal, I don't have any problem with persons who prefer to have it like 30 years ago.
Sure.
It's. I think I have my age to tell myself, okay, if you don't like it, no problem. If you want to, we can discuss about it. But I won't be mad about the fact that you preferred the stuff from 30 years ago, because I like to experiment and look for new ways into my music. So the least what I can say is, okay, let's discuss about it. But if you don't want to, no problem. I won't be mad about it. I'm still what I like to do most is looking for new ways and doing better music. Always looking for new ways and looking for giving yourself the good feeling of doing much more better stuff all the time. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're nicer about it than I would be, but that's okay.
Maybe it's my age,
Probably. this. This is a very selfish question.
Yes.
But okay, so the bat logo for Ah Cama-Sotz is so enthralling. I love it so much. Why is there not more cool ass Ah Cama-Sotz merchandise? Like, I want I want to buy like shirts and bags, and I love it. It's so great. And I know that like merchandise has been like throughout the years, I've seen like some stuff on your website that's kind of come and gone, and I've always been like, oh man, like, just where the hell is it? Like, I want a shirt. I want a shirt. Where's the merch?
Yes, I understand well. Well, at the start, when I started in the 90s and 2000, and I put out lots of stuff, merchandising stuff, T-shirts and so on, for the different festivals where I went. And then my label took over some of the T-shirts, and then at a specific moment, the merchandising and all the stuff, they went a bit more. The merchandise, there was so much. Let's say there was so much merchandising to sell, from so many different bands.
Right.
And then it's quite difficult to invest again and again.
Sure.
But since then, yes, I said in the 90s and 2000, I sold lots of merchandising. Even when coming to the US, we sold quite a lot. But yes, at this point, I'm still thinking about putting out new stuff. But of course, it takes always an investment and time to put it out.
I mean, sure. And I appreciate that answer. And I'm glad that you sold a lot of it, but I didn't get any of it. So that's the main issue I'm running into is just I have no Ah Cama-Sotz merchandise. So so I'm going to need you to get to work on that as soon as as soon as you have an opportunity. But we're coming up on about a little over 45 minutes of recording, and I usually record for about an hour. Thank you again so much for a second shot at this. Like the first time, I just, my nerves, lack of sleep, too much marijuana, probably.
But Brian, no problem. If you want to, you can call me again next week. Yeah.
Oh, I would love to. I appreciate your time so much. But so one last thing I did want to ask you and just sort of visit with is just, is there, if you had to pick a record, an album that you think that's, and this is a huge question. I'm sure it's a big ask because I'm sure you've heard a tremendous amount of records. But if you had to sort of pin down something that was special to you that you think everybody should give a listen to, is there one that you could try and pick out, at least just sort of off the top of your head?
Do you mean one of my records, huh?
I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, like, oh, all the other records in the world were destroyed. Oh, there's only this Ah Cama-Sotz record. What do you know? Yeah,
of course.
Right, of course.
Of course.
Right, yeah, that's the obvious answer. But I mean, if you had to pick someone else's, of course, yeah.
Someone else's. Well, it's a rather difficult question,
Right, sure.
So many. There's so many records. They're already. People already ask me the same question over and over, and I always ask to tell the people. I really don't know because there's so many. So it's not comfortable for me to tell you just one record. Okay. Sorry about it, but I cannot tell you.
It's perfectly fine. It's a huge ask. I totally get it. Do you have one of your own records that's your favorite?
All? Yes.
Oh, all of them.
Oh.
Yeah, they're just all my precious babies. They're all so unique and special.
Yes. Yeah. Really. They're all they're all different accents. They're all special. So
Sure.
I cannot tell you just because I'm really working since so many time, so many years onwards my project. So
Right.
I cannot tell you that I've got one specific. But of course, like many musicians who tell me, and they ask them, "What's your favorite album?" And they tell me, "Okay, it will always be the last one."
Right. Of course. I mean,
that's a quite it's a quite interesting question. But they always tell me, "Yes, it's my last one because it will.
Sure.
The next album shall always be the best."
Right. I mean, that's true. That's the answer I've always gotten. I was just kind of, I mean, and that's fair, but I mean, like, is there really not one, like, Ah Cama-Sotz that you released that you're just like, I wish I hadn't done that? Or you were just like, every single time you were just like 100% like behind it?
Yes, as I tell you, my last one.
Right, yeah. Okay, well, I will go ahead and let you go for today, and thank you again so much for this is such an honor, such a treat to get to talk to you. I love Ah Cama-Sotz. I love everything that you've been making, and I'm so honored, so humbled. Thank you so much.
So no problem. It's quite important for underground artists that you can share as much as you can, as you could, as you will, as my music. Because yes, people they don't believe this, but even the smaller artists of the underground artists, for even it's a small amount, we all have to invest into music, into musician, into instruments, and it's not so easy it's not really easy to have, like in these the last years, as so many people are really listening much more to the internet without buying the records, as I told you last time.
Sure. And it's my pleasure to sort of advertise and be like, hey, go check this out, and try and drive some attention that way. Because I mean, honestly, Ah Cama-Sotz has informed so much of what I've kind of tried to create over the years, as far as like my own sort of endeavors, I guess. And
yes.
So it's my pleasure to sort of serve as a herald for such a thing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening, and
yes.
Hopefully we will talk again soon. Take care.
Okay, we'll keep in touch. Huh?
All right, absolutely. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Brian. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this episode of Void Signal, you can visit voidsignal.net to make a small donation to the podcast. Even just $1 here and there helps. You can also find merchandise, stop by, buy a shirt, and help support the podcast. Otherwise, you can click all the social media buttons. Those help too, and I appreciate it. Thanks so much, and take care.
The world dying anew, not knowing what's on the inside. A covenant may shine or decay. After God, free Leviathan. The inner circle of hell. I couldn't forgive and forget.
beautiful city of the ancients. I lost my heart in the history of your past, craving lost souls, wandering through the silver curtains of your fountains, waiting for the sun to surrender to the sky full of stars. I wish we could all find eternal peace at last.
Waiting for the sun to surrender to a sky full of stars. I wish you would all find eternal peace at last.